Welcome into the BSN Buffs weekly breakdown presented by Canyon Bakehouse. Canyon Bakehouse makes delicious, certified gluten-free breads, bagels, English muffins, and other baked goods right here in Colorado. Their gluten, dairy, nut, and soy-free products make it easy for families to enjoy the taste and texture of fresh bread so everyone can love bread again. Find them at any major grocery store in the freezer or fresh bread aisle and visit canyonglutenfree.com to grab a coupon. I'm Allie Monroy, and with me today is BSN Buffs beat writer Henry Chisholm. The Buffs beat Nebraska 34-31 in an incredible comeback in overtime. Henry, what were your overall thoughts on this game? Your first game covering the Buffs at Folsom.
Yeah, that was my first time watching football at Folsom, and it lived up to the hype. I mean, what more could you ask for than beating a rival in overtime, coming back from down 17? I think they put up 31 points in the last...
In 16 minutes.
16 minutes
of
regulation.
They didn't score until like the last minute in the third quarter.
It's incredible, and I'm not sure whether you want to call it luck, whether they just outlasted Nebraska and all those emotions that Nebraska came in with kind of died down, and it opened up an opportunity for Colorado, but... they won, and that's what matters.
I think it was a lot to do with the halftime adjustments. I mean, the entire time we've talked on the podcast, on the Denver Sports Podcast, on the Buffs podcast, about how Mel Tucker's demeanor is just so calm. He wasn't freaking out at all, which is a lot different than a prior coach. He was in it.
Yeah. During the press conference on Tuesday, Steven Montez actually said that Mel Tucker is cool as a cucumber on the sideline. And that's what you want to hear, because that's who he is. He's a smart, tactical guy. He's not somebody who wants to get riled up and yell. And he says that there's, a time and a place for everything, but on the sidelines, it's time to learn and adjust, and that's what the Buffs did.
Well, what were a few things the Buffs need to improve on? Obviously, they didn't score any points until the final third quarter.
You need to get Laviska Shenault the ball. We've gotten to the point where, you can come up with reasons why he isn't getting the ball. He's double covered a lot of the time. He was a little banged up, it looked like, for most of that game. But still, through all of that, Laviska needs to be the focal point of this offense. Even if he is double covered, Steven Montez needs to throw him the ball, give him a chance to make a play. Because if he makes that play, he's going to be triple covered. They're not using him as much as they could. And even the times when there's only one defensive back on him, he isn't getting the ball. It just doesn't make any sense.
It is frustrating, but it has given Buffs fans a chance to see how much depth they have in their wide receiver core.
Yeah, they really do. Katie Nixon, Tony Brown really stepped up. Jalen Jackson, after 3 season-ending injuries, had a couple big plays. He had the end-arounds. He had the 57-yard catch that set up the second touchdown, maybe third touchdown. It's big-time stuff from a bunch of different players, but Laviska Shenault is head and shoulders better than any other receiver on the team.
Than any player on the field.
Yeah, he is the best player in the Pac-12 conference, and you need to find him a way to get the ball.
Well, moving on to Air Force. The Buffs take on Air Force this Saturday at 11 a.m. That's an early kickoff at Folsom Field. You love Air Force's triple option. So tell me, what do the Buffs need to do to come out of this game with a win?
They need to stay disciplined. There are two things. The defense needs to stay disciplined. If Air Force is going to score a touchdown, it better be because they're running the ball up the middle over and over and over again, all the way up the field. Make it a 15, 20 play drive. You can't give them the cheap points. You can't give them the big splash plays, and that's what they're looking for. They have people up in that coaching box just waiting for a safety to shift his weight one way or the other, because that's something they can take advantage of. And, it's all about this tactical approach. Everybody does their job, and the coaches find a weakness, and they exploit it. If the Buffs just stay in their lane, follow their responsibilities, it won't be a problem. And offensively, they need to come out hot, because as soon as you get an Air Force team, a triple option team that runs the ball more than anything else behind, you have that advantage, because that's not an offense that's built to come back. And so that's really what it is the defense needs to stay disciplined. The offense needs to jump off to a hot start and keep a buffer most of the way through.
Well, there are a few people after seeing the game against Nebraska thinking that Laviska Shenault may be hurt. So is this a game that you sit him, or do you wait till ASU when you're on the road? What do you think of that?
That's tough. I mean, this is the most winnable game, if that's what you want to call it, down the stretch for the Buffs. You know, that at UCLA game in October, I believe, might be November. That's another one that you might have circled. But it is a question, and it'll be interesting to see how Mel Tucker plays this, whether he does ask Laviska to go out there and produce early on so they can get out to that lead and then maybe take a step back and put him on the bench the rest of the way.
Do you see him being a little limited?
I mean, he looked like it in the game.
Yeah.
He isn't. I haven't heard anybody willing to admit that he was, but you could see it. You could see, especially late. I think what happened was there was the second touch he had in that game, first down run. He comes up a little bit slow, and from then on out, he just was not himself. He was missing third downs, missing fourth downs. The last drive of the game in overtime, when he got hit, he stayed down longer than you'd expect a guy like Laviska Shenault to stay down. So I could see them trying to rest him this week. I could see them saying, you know, the spread right now is 4 points. Buffs favored by 4 points. This isn't an easy win by any means, and so they might try to keep him in and just ensure that they get the win here.
Do you have a score prediction for this Air Force game?
It's a tough one. I do think that the Buffs are going to win. I'm going to say they win 34-17.
Well, as always, be sure to follow all of our content on bsndenver.com. For Henry Chisholm, I'm Allie Monroy, BSN Denver.